Good morning. My name is Brenda Sheep. Today is Friday, May 16th, and we are at the Pawnee County Fairgrounds in Pawnee, Oklahoma, interviewing Marjorie Buchanan as part of the Voices of Extension Oral History Project. Miss Marjorie, thank you for joining us this morning.
It's a pleasure to be here.
We're glad you agreed to do this. Talk with us a little bit about your early life. Where were you born, and where were you born?
I was born in the country at a time when most people were born in the homes themselves. I was born on the northeast quarter of section 27, 21 north, 5 east of Indian Meridian.
Was that in Pawnee County?
Yes.
And what year were you born?
1931.
Tell
On
me.
my parents' wedding anniversary. Go ahead.
So what wedding anniversary was it for them?
I don't know. I had twin brothers who died, and they were premature, and then an older brother. So I would guess sixth anniversary, maybe.
And tell me a little bit, you described a little bit about your immediate family, but who were the members of your immediate family? What were their names?
Philip, the older brother, was away from Pawnee County for a while, and he now came back to Pawnee County. And then me as the oldest of 5 girls, Mary Ann, Peggy, Effie, Nancy, and then I have a younger brother, Bill, who's a highway patrol. Well, he was a highway patrolman. And we're all still living, and I think when the first one goes, we'll go like dominoes.
What were your parents' names?
Leroy and Lyanne.
What was your mother's maiden name?
Meeker.
Okay. And your maiden name was, what was your maiden name?
Greasel.
Greasel?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And how did your family come to live there?
My great-grandfather made the run into the Cherokee Strip. Well, both of them did. The Coxes, Grandma Greasel's mother was a Cox. Her maiden name was Cox. And her father ran and settled near Perry, and then traded his claim there, traded a team of mules, a team, for a homestead over in this area. And Grandpa Greasel made the run into the Cherokee Strip, and they both settled around here, and the folks settled here, and nobody went very far from home at that time. You know, you stayed close to where your parents were.
Is that land still in the family?
Yes.
Who farms it now?
I don't know. I can't tell you. Some of it was classified school land, and I think that's still in the family.
What does school land mean?
Sections 16 and 36, I think it was, when they opened this whole country, were set aside for the proceeds from that, the renting of that, etc., would go to maintain the school systems. Now, if a person lived on it, they owned the house, they owned the fences, they owned the outbuildings, they owned the barns, etc., but they didn't own the land. And recently, there's been they have a school land auction in Oklahoma City, and my son has gone a time or two, and the land rental prices are getting awfully high. So much so that a cattleman is not able to make a profit with that land. It's gone to hunters.
The lease prices have
Yes.
gotten high.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
When you were growing up, I take it that your father farmed.
Yes.
Did your mother work outside the home?
No. Well, I mean, yes, but not away from the farm. We grew up strictly on the farm. We had cattle, sheep, hogs, never goats. Dad raised wheat, corn, cotton. He had meadows. He had an alfalfa field. And I was his best bale tire back in the days when there was no automated baler equipment. You had a back wire put the wires through to you, and I was his tire.
So describe how that worked. I'm not even familiar with that.
With that baling system, it was powered by horses who walked in a circle. And there was a rod that they would put the tension on the rod, and then it would activate the baler. The baler, the plunger moved back and forth this way, and a person put the hay in, and occasionally you'd find a person who'd lost a finger or a leg in that plunger, because when the hay had to go in, and the plunger came forward and made a flake of hay. You know what I mean by a flake? And every so often they would put in a wooden block down in that, and the plunger would push that block in. And when that block got to a certain place on this long, where the hay was being compressed and tied, when it got to a certain place, I would yell, "Block!" and he would put in a block. The block was made solid, except it had a little piece of wood here and here and here. And the back wirer, who sat on the other side of me, would put one end through and the other end of a bale wire through those slots. And I tied. All I did was sit there and tie and yell, "Block!" And I think that's where I got my outdoor voice. That and one other thing I'll tell you about.
So when you would bale those, about how many bales would you do in a day?
Oh, let's see, on a meadow of, I would guess 45, 50 acres, because it was better than a half of 80 acres. And I'm looking up there because I'm trying to think in my mind. It would take a week to do it. I expect we do 400 or 500 bales a day. The mowing was done with a team of horses. Dad would not let us mow. With a sickle, working back and forth in the mower. And the sickle was 6 foot long. I remember that, because that was about all that a team of horses could pull. And then I raked the hay. I have my rake on my front yard here in town. It's called a sulky rake, and you go along in the loose hay, and when it gets so full, you trip a lever with your foot, and the teeth raise up and leave it, and you put them down and go to the next one. And the problem was to dump it just right so your windrows were straight, and that way when the buck rake came along and took the hay to the baler, it wouldn't have to jog back and forth. It was a matter of pride to rake straight lines.
You said there was another story about how you got your outside voice. What was that story?
We had milk cows. Dad had beef cows, but he also had milk cows, because with 5 girls, that's the way we earned our allowance, if you can call it that. We didn't call it that. That's all right. And the pasture was about 120 acres. He had part of the 160 in field, and part of it was hog pasture, but about 140 acres. And when we'd go to get cows, we never knew where they were. One of us would go this way, one of us would go this way, and one of us would cut to the bald hill, we called it, kind of catty-cornered. And we'd sing to each other, sing harmony across half a mile, Oh yes, I have a voice.
As singers, did you guys sing anyplace else? Or was it
Oh yes, oh yeah. We sang for Rotary clubs and Lions clubs and went out of town and sang at churches and Greasel Girls. We still do. One of my sisters is in Albuquerque. She's a doctor there in Cedar Crest. And one of them lives in Enid, and her husband is a World War II vet, and she's needed there. But whenever we get together, about once a year, then we cut loose and sing.
Describe any interactions your family had with the extension educators, 4-H, county agents, home demonstration agents during your early life?
I went to country school, and we didn't have a 4-H club, but Dad wanted us in 4-H, and Mother wanted us in 4-H, and we were members at large. I don't even know if they have those now. I have no idea.
What did members at large mean? How was that different?
We were a member through the county, but we didn't go to 4-H meetings as such.
Did you participate in other events?
We showed sheep at the local show, and one time we showed sheep in Tulsa at the Tulsa State Fair. Never calves. In the first place, beef cattle, well, they were just raised wilder, you know. We didn't handle the calves.
Were there other kids in your school that were members at large?
Not that I recall. Now, I had double cousins in that school, but I don't think they participated.
Why did the school not have a 4-H club?
It was an 8th grade school, and I would suspect the teacher had more than enough to do without sponsoring a 4-H club. And we couldn't have stayed after school and had it. We hurried home because we had chores to do. Everybody had chores to do.
When you first joined as a member at large, about how old were you and what year would that have been?
I started to school when I was 4. So I would expect I was about 9, about 5th grade.
What year do you remember what year that would have been?
1940, roughly.
And were there other children in the county that were members at large? Or?
I have no idea. At that time, it's hard to believe it now, but at that time, every school district was its own entity. We didn't. The only time I ever remember leaving our school area was to go to an inter-school track meet at another rural school that was 4 miles east of us, because that was about as far as the rural schools were apart. That way no child had to walk more than about 2 miles to school, something like that, you know. And we went over there and had a track meet, and they had races and things like this, but they also had solos and speeches and things like this, but it wasn't to do with 4-H. I got a Hershey bar for winning a singing or something. I don't know what it was.
As part of the 4-H or the other activity?
There was no 4-H activity, see, it was, well, some of them that day gave speeches like they do kind of in 4-H now, but I think it was just between the two schools.
Do you remember who some of the county educators, county agents were at that time?
No, I don't remember at all. There was I I'm about to drown. Excuse me. I've got to have a Kleenex somewhere. I had one, but I don't know what I did with it. Paper towel? Good. Yes, thank you. I do remember there was an A.R. Garlington who was I think he was the county agent. And if he had an assistant, I don't know who it was. But I think he was still the county agent when I was in high school at 12. That's when I first became aware there was an area outside my school. I was 12 years old, came into high school.
And you said his name was?
A.R. Garlington, Okay.
And was he from this area?
He lived west of town and a little bit north, I think, of Highway 64. I'm not ever sure where, but around.
And so as an at-large 4-H member, you were able to participate in some of the county shows, the livestock shows.
Mm-hmm.
Can you describe how your family got ready for those?
Sure. We went to the sheep herd, we picked out a sheep, and away we went. There wasn't any of this feeding and grooming and leading and showing, you know. You just picked out a sheep and went to the fair.
How did you decide which sheep?
I'm sure that Dad or my older brother did that.
And when you got them, where were the livestock shows? Where were the shows at?
Oh, I don't know. I can't tell you that. I know where the sale barn was. It was where Snack and Pack is here in Pawnee now, at the corner of 18 and 64. You can't think about a sale barn being there, but that's where it was.
And at the local shows or where you showed your livestock, describe how you got there, what you did while you were there.
Nobody had trailers like they do now. We loaded them in. Dad had livestock racks that went on his hay wagon, the same truck that we hauled hay with on the flatbed. He put stock racks on and hauled to the Tulsa stockyards with calves, and I'm sure that's how we got our sheep to the Tulsa Fair.
Tell me about your experience at the Tulsa Fair.
Oh, that's really something. The sheep went over. My older brother stayed with him. He had an FFA box, a chest, and he slept with him. And Dad got me out of school for a day. He said, "This will be as much education as you'll learn in school." And Mother got me a pair of women's overalls, which was very rare at that time, very rare, because women didn't wear pants like they do now, And I had a blouse that went under it, and got over to the Tulsa State Fair, and they had called, my brother had shown his, then they called my class, and I wasn't there yet, and he showed my sheep. I don't know if I got anything or not.
How did your involvement with 4-H shape your family life?
I don't think it did a great deal because Mother was a perfectionist. Very easygoing, sweet, gentle, the whole bit. But I learned to rip from my mother. If I sewed on a treadle machine, do you know what a treadle machine is? Okay. And it was crooked, she'd say, "Marjorie, you wouldn't want to wear that. with that seam like that. So I rip to this day. It doesn't bother me at all because I learned to rip. I learned to cook from my mother. Public speaking, yes, maybe, because I remember doing a demonstration and a timely topic. That's the word timely topic. She stood on your own and you explained something and you did it yourself. Demonstration, there were 2 of you, or maybe 3, I can't remember, and presented it together. And it bothers me to this day. In a public situation, someone from the audience will ask a question and the speaker will answer it. We were not allowed to do that. And I think, boy, do they need a lesson from 4-H. We were to say, the question is, how much dough do you put in the muffin tin? And the answer is 1/4 cup or whatever it was, you know. Why a speaker today does not say, the question has been asked, so that those of us back behind will know what the question was. They need a lesson. They need 4-H experience.
I agree. It's a good point. Was your mother, were there home demonstration clubs at the time that your mother might have been in?
Oh, yes, yes. My grandma Greasel and my mother belonged to Pandora Home Demonstration Club. That's what they were called at that time. And before I was old enough to remember the situation, but I got the results of it, and I think it was the county, had a drive to get a pressure cooker into every home. And Grandma Greasel got one and Mother got one. And they were exactly alike.
So how did that drive take place? Who initiated that?
I have no recollection of that. I got in on the good part of it, the learning to use it and to can. And I don't know what they used ahead of that time. Maybe they dried their corn, I don't know.
Can you describe the pressure cooker? What do you remember about that?
Mother's had, now mine, you turn the lid to get it to lock. Mother's, you set the lid on and then there were little pivots down on the pressure cooker. You raised them up and they had little screw things and you screwed it down tight and you were set.
Can you describe the time that you can with your mother as a young child?
How much time do you have? We cut off corn till the world looked level. We had a hackberry grove in the backyard, and that's where we did a lot of the bean snapping and the green bean and peas went everywhere. I learned how to do peas. Would you like to know how to do peas? When you bring them in from the garden, don't do anything to them. Put them in a kettle, stove, bring them to a boil. And the pea pods just get like tissue paper, and you just pick them up. Then I just dump them in the sink and run cold water over them, pick them up. Just as easy as can be once you heat them. But anyway, we canned beef because we didn't have freezers at that time. We canned corn, and I remember it took a long, many minutes to can corn. Green beans, tomatoes, never carrots or parsnips. We kept them either in the ground or in a, forgot what they call it. Root cellar, But we had a cellar at the house and it was always full. We picked blackberries and canned them, wild blackberries. We had an orchard and Mother would can pears and apples and peaches, always without sugar. You added sugar afterwards.
Where did your mother learn to can?
I have no idea. Now, Grandma Meeker, her mother, had a large family. I think there were 8 children who lived. So Grandma Meeker would have had to have put by food, you know.
Did you ever attend any of the home demonstration clubs with your mother as a child?
Yes, yes. I don't know that I got a lot out of it. I remember going, but I don't remember the lessons or anything. But I got married when I was 17, after a year of college. And we had our son at 18, when I was 18. And let me think. I think it was the year Calvin was a year old that I joined Pandora Club.
And who were some of the other members in the Pandora Club?
Oh my goodness. Aunt Thelma Meeker and Thelma Brown, her husband was a county commissioner. Leela Waters, Lois Skidgel. Lois is still living. She's in the nursing home. Junior will be, he's a cattleman around, still living. Betty Greasel, one of my, a woman I graduated with who married my uncle. And, oh, let me think. I'm running up and down the country roads out there because, again, it was just more or less Vera Waters and Eva Davis. Dixie Yadon. That's pretty good for 83 years old, don't you think?
Can you describe where you met or how often?
They met every month, I think. Maybe not in the summer season, I don't know. But they met every month in the homes. Now the one I belong to now oftentimes meets at Lone Chimney Town Hall or one of the church basements or something like that, you know. But some of us still meet in the home.
And did you say that is the Pandora Club still active?
No, no.
About when did it disband?
Oh, I'd have to check with Phyllis at the office. She would know. She could dig it out. By then I was working full-time away from home. So it would have to be after 1955. It was quite a little bit after that, I would think.
Do you remember any of the home demonstration agents around that time that you were a young homemaker and a part of that club?
Flossie Miller was the home demonstration agent.
Describe Flossie, what you know about her.
She was so pretty, so nice. She said something I will never forget. She said, "You will be, when you grow old, just what you are now, only more so." And that's the truth. I was country when I was little, and I live in town, and I'm still country.
Was she married? Did she have a family?
She had a son. I think she was widowed. Now, I'm not sure. But what was her son's name? Seemed like it was Donnie Miller, but that's not right. I don't know, but she had a son, and he was well behaved.
Was she from Pawnee County?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
About how long did she serve in that role?
Oh, forever and ever. Other than that, I just don't remember. I just don't remember. many, many years.
What was her age compared to your age at that time?
She was probably, let me do some figuring. I think that Effie went to school with her son, and Effie was born in 37. She was probably 35 when I was 17, 18, 19. So I think I joined when I was about 19. The lessons were so different than they are today.
Can you describe some of the lessons?
Well, one of them I recall vividly, how to iron a shirt quickly. And I think the reason I recall it is because the girl I graduated with, you know, the one I said that she was the one who did it the way most people do it. You know, they turn it and they turn it and they turn it and they turn it. And I can't remember who the one was who did it right, but you know, just lay it up there and iron the back on the underside and flip it over and iron the front. And she just did it with such a minimum of effort.
So describe how to iron a shirt quickly.
A dress shirt. Okay. You got it washed, you've got it dried, you've got it sprinkled, you're ready to iron. Lay it with its back on the ironing board, half of the back. Iron the back from the underside. Lay the front over it, iron the front. Flip it, move it back, lay the other half, lay the front over it. Then iron the yoke, the collar, and the sleeves. Whish and whish.
And I know what you're talking about when you say and have them sprinkled.
Oh.
Others may not, especially in the future. Can you describe what that means?
Oh. Yeah. You took a bottle. You know, you could buy these, but nobody ever bought them. You know, you took a bottle, which was glass, and there was a thing on top that had a cork at the bottom that fit down inside the glass. Then it flanged up like this. Then it had a dome, kind of a dome here, with holes punched in it. And so you went and sprinkled these clothes and rolled them up so the moisture would spread throughout them. Now I guess if you were smart, you could pull them off the line, but nobody ever did because you didn't wash and iron the same day.
What were some of the other lessons that you had?
Cooking lessons, how to use vegetables that were new to us. In Oklahoma, we don't use jicama much, but it's coming. I see it for sale sometimes. But at that time, some of the vegetables that were grown, healthy vegetables, we didn't know how to use them. We didn't know what to do with them. And they would distribute patterns of maybe a coverall apron, or a cobbler's apron they called them. You know, they had the pockets on here that you could use to clean with. And I remember getting a pattern for that. New ways of using, see, when I grew up, at first we had fruit jars, some gallons, some half gallons, some quart, very few pints because families were big then. But the lids, there was a rubber ring that went around it, and then there was a gray colored, maybe lead, with a glass lining inside that went down over that as you canned. Well, when the new 2-part lids came out, we had a lesson on that and how it would work and how it would go through the pressure cooker and how it would do an open bath and the hot water bath and that kind of thing.
At the time you were in the Pandora Club, do you remember about how many other clubs were in the county?
My sis, Mary Ann, was county president, and there were 38 clubs the year she was president.
Do you remember about what year that was?
No, she was born in 33, married when she was 18, so we're talking 51. 51. It was probably about 1960, I would guess. 65 maybe.
What did you say your sister's name was?
Mary Ann was the one who was county president.
What was her last name?
Now it's Denny.
Was it that at that time?
Yes.
She was president?
Uh-huh.
And did the clubs ever get together for a county event?
Yes. Uh-huh.
What were some of those, and describe those?
We'd have a lesson. I don't recall that we ever had meals. Now a lot of times they have a potluck meal. I don't recall that we did then. Usually just refreshments, I think.
Did you come in someplace for a lesson? Now they send a representative for a lesson. How was it done then?
I don't know. I know I gave lessons. I think it was just mailed out to us or brought to us or whatever. I don't recall ever going any place like I do now.
And at the time, were the home demonstration clubs active in the county fair?
Yes. Yes. And I remember something I forgot to tell you a while ago. When I was in 4-H, I entered garments that I had made in the county fair.
It was a what?
A garment.
A garment? Can you describe it? Do you remember?
It was a skirt. It was a gathered skirt. I think that's where I learned to gather. On a band. I doubt that it had pockets. I would have torn the pockets out anyway, so.
And when you displayed how did that make you feel to have a display at the county fair?
Nice, just like it is now, whether I win or not, it's there.
Do you remember if you got a ribbon?
No. I did have some ribbons, but I don't know whether it was for that or the sheep.
And were there any other projects that really stand out when you participated in 4-H?
No. I remember carrying a lunch to eat on the days that we showed. So there was no food booth, I think. Or else Dad and Mother decided feeding 7 kids at the food booth would be a little too expensive.
Were there any others that you met through 4-H, even other youth that you remember?
Yes. The Salee family, west of town. Now this is Phyllis Heisler's family. She was a Salee. There was Leslie and Bill, who showed shorthorn cattle. And I loved them because my grandpa Meeker had shorthorn cattle. Not the red ones, he had the roans. And so I remember them. There was a cousin of mine, Willa Mae Berg, who sewed garments for the fair. And the reason I remember that is she was a beautiful seamstress. She was just a girl, like 12 years old, but she just sewed beautifully. And they would not give her the award because they said, no, your mother sewed it. But Aunt Ethel would never have done it and tried to pawn it off.
What else do you remember about that? Was the family upset?
I don't know, but I was upset because I knew what she could do.
Where did she learn to sew like that?
Probably from her mother. And her mother was a school teacher. So I don't know where she found time. But then they only had 3 children in their family. We had 7 to rear.
Were there any 4-H trips that you went on? Did they have 4-H trips?
I didn't go, and I don't recall any being offered. Just getting away from our community was a trip. You understand? To come into Pawnee to the fair, that was a...
I do understand that.
Okay. We didn't always even come to town on Saturdays. The folks would, but the children didn't. And the oldest girl, I was responsible. I couldn't hit them, but I was supposed to make them mind.
Looking back on your involvement with 4-H or your involvement with home demonstration clubs, is there anything else of interest historically that you remember that you can share?
Not right now. I'll come back to it as we go along. I want to mention one thing. All of the home demonstration agents I have known, and all of the county agents I have known, dressed well. They dressed, the demonstration agents came to every club meeting, and we don't have that a lot anymore. The county agents were out and about. I remember A.R. Garlington coming and talking to Dad.
Coming and talking to your father?
At the farm,
And who was that?
A.R. Garlington, Mr. Garlington.
How often did he come, and what do you remember about those visits?
I don't remember a thing about it. He'd come in the summertime. But he got out and about, people knew him.
When you talk about those older extension educators, extension agents, the home demonstration agents, and you said that they dressed well, can you describe how they were dressed?
When they came to a club meeting, they'd be wearing dresses, because everybody wore dresses in those days. But they were just well put together, I guess you'd say. Mid-heels, usually, including up to Martha Waters when she was I think she was the agent here, but she'd come to club meetings sometimes. And she didn't just come and, she acted as if it was important to her enough to dress for. You know what I'm saying?
So you've mentioned a few of those educators that you remember. Do you remember any others? You've mentioned Martha, and you mentioned the one that you had when you first joined. Who were some of the others in between that time?
I don't know. And the reason I don't know is because Mr. Garlington, I think, was still the agent when I graduated from high school. He had a son who was in service, and his daughter was a year behind me in school. And I think I was a senior, and he was still the agent, as I recall. That had been 1947. Yeah, 1947. And then I got married, was in Pandora, but I wasn't out and about. My husband and I were busy. 4 kids in 10 years, 4 boys in 10 years. And I think I just kind of phased out that part of my life. I can't remember after him until Martha.
And did you reconnect then with the home demonstration club and become more active once your children got older?
When I quit work. I had worked until I was past 65. And then I joined New Horizons, mainly because Mary Ann Denny, the one who had been president, was a member there. And that's where I still am.
And can you tell me some of the other members in that group?
New Horizons? Yes, from the Merrimack area we had Pearline Anderson. She's a member but inactive now because of cancer. Juanita Fulton, and she's deceased now. Her daughter Eugenia, who is still a member. Connie Fuss, Linda Fuss, Donna Adams from the Merrimack area, Ruth Ann Ellis, her husband was a county commissioner. And then from the, and it was mostly Merrimack area until Brenda Rowland, her husband is the street commissioner here in Pawnee. She joined, and that kind of pulled it to Pawnee. And then Mary Ann, my sister, moved in from the Merrimack Pawnee area into Pawnee. And then I joined, and then Sue Pope joined, and then Rita Clem joined, and Melinda Courtright joined, and you know, so it's kind of a two-community situation.
What are some of the projects? Can you describe some of the projects your group does?
Oh, she keeps us busy. The one that I enjoy the most is reading to the grade school. 5 members. 2 members go to Head Start, and they read every week. 3 members go to the grade school and read every week, and I'm the reader. And I sit there in a chair, and here's these little kids out here, you know, and I say, hello, my name is Grandma Margie. And when you see me anywhere, you wave and say, hi, Grandma Margie. And they did today. I stopped, they were lined up on the sidewalk for a field trip, I think, somewhere. And the teacher aide said, there's Grandma Margie. And they said, hi, Grandma Margie. Hi, Grandma Margie. Makes me feel so good. Then we take them a little treat. We've made mat covers for the kindergarten. You know, these, and they're plastic covered, and they stick to them. So we made covers for them. We made backs for the chairs for the 4th graders. Kind of a backpack situation that would hold their books and everything. The schools are getting so crowded and everything, and they used them.
When you make the mat covers or the back covers, do you get together as a group? Do you do that individually? How does that's done?
Both. Some people took their, including me, took their portable machines to Lone Chimney. What do they call that? I said it a while ago. The community center down there. Lone Chimney is a town, has a fire station and a community center. And that's about all that's there. But anyway, that's beside the point. We took them down there. But right now, I'm making pillowcase dresses through the club. Well, they're going on a mission trip, but our club has said we would help make them. You just take a plain old pillowcase and cut the closed end off, you know, where it's seamed across here, and that leaves you a tube of material. Then you cut out an armhole that's 4 inches deep and 2 inches wide, bind it with double tape, bias tape, and bind both sleeve things, and then turn a casing down here and feed the rest of the bias tape through that casing, and it ties on the shoulder. And you'd be surprised how much wear there is left in a pillowcase. Some of them I get because I just get them from everywhere, you know, since people know I sew them for the club to send on this mission trip, are worn, pretty well worn on one side. So then on the front side, I will put the least worn side, a little bow or a flower or something, you know, just stitch it real fast.
And how many has your group made?
Oh, I expect we sent 50 last year, and she goes in the 2nd week in June this year, so we're just frantic. sewing. I will have turned in 24.
When you say she goes in June this year, who is she?
Brenda Rowland, whose husband he doesn't go. He's street commissioner here in Pawnee. She goes, her church goes, and my daughter-in-law's church goes with them. And they go to Mexico and build a house or re-roof a house or something. But the big way that our club is involved is making the pillowcase dresses.
And how many years has your club done that about?
I don't know, they were doing it when I joined. So they've done it more than 6 years.
What are some of the other activities that your club does?
Oh my, we're involved in teaching young girls to sew. We have members who do that. I was trying to think. We give a scholarship to a senior every year. We have 2 members of our club who give individual scholarships. Oh my, we're just involved in something ever. We enter in the Soil Conservation Fair. We have a booth. In the we helped at the Ag Day yesterday. And that was for 5th graders. We have a day in the kitchen now, in the fair kitchen, and at other times of the year we have every year we have a county project of a breakfast or a spaghetti dinner or something to benefit. This year I think it was the Salvation Army, but one year it was the food bank, and one year it was the free clinic, that's the word I want there, that kind of thing.
You talked about one of the activities you helped with Ag Day.
Uh-huh.
How did you guys help, and can you describe Ag Day?
Well, Ag Day is kind of a field trip for the 5th graders, and no, I really can't, because I wasn't one of those who was chosen to go. One member was to take enrollments, I think she said was her job. And we may have had others out and about, I don't know.
Do you have county council meetings or fall council?
Yes, we have one in the fall, one in the spring. Then we have a Christmas gathering, and we have a summer fun day in July.
Can you describe your fall council?
Fall council may meet in Cleveland, sometimes in Pawnee, sometimes at a church. We'll meet, usually potluck. The hostess group may furnish the meat or something like this, or the county officers one time, or maybe more than once, have furnished the meat. And we eat, we have a lesson, and a business.
What have some of the lessons been?
Well, we had one on the orphan train, and I was very interested in that. I gave that lesson this month in our local club. We've had one on, can't remember. It's gone.
Is there anything else that you would like to share about your extension involvement? Any other stories that you recall?
No, but there's, at a time when I was in Pandora Club, nobody, not just me, I started to say me, but I said we were bound in the community. We were not only that, we were busy. And the meetings were maybe the only opportunity of the month to get to see other women, to get out. Now, Mother didn't go to town every Saturday. She'd send a list by Dad. He'd take the cream and the eggs in and get the groceries and maybe go to the community sale on Saturday at the, right here in town and come home. We didn't have a lot of interaction with other people like people do nowadays. And that was not just a club meeting, it was the socialization for the month. And I think that's why we took our kids. It was a chance to play with other kids. And nowadays I notice that in homeschool children. They miss that socialization. And you'll see them at ball games and they stand there and visit with their neighbor instead of watching the ball that's coming at them.
So when you had club day, how long did that last? When you had your club meetings, was it an all day and who came?
Occasionally it was all day, but mostly it was afternoon. We'd go about, get lunch over, feed the men, and then go 1:30 or 2, somewhere like that, and be home by 5. There was a club out east of town, and I have forgotten the name of it. It was around Pleasant View Schoolhouse, and within the past 2 years, someone came to me and said, I want you to have these. And it was quilt blocks, hand embroidered, with the members of that club's name on it. And Martha Waters' mother-in-law had done one of the names, Bessie Waters, had embroidered it by hand, because there wasn't any embroidery machines then. And insofar as possible, I knew most of the people, and I called the people who would be interested in the quilt blocks, and the most of them picked them up. There were 3 I did not know, and I took them to the Historical Society.
When do you think those were made?
1939.
The quilt blocks were made?
One of them was numbered. I seemed like it was the president's was numbered, was dated.
And so they were quilt blocks but not yet made into a quilt?
No, just 10 inches, maybe 12 inches square.
Do you think they intended to make them into a quilt and it just didn't happen? Or?
Yes, I think that's exactly what happened.
About how many were there?
24.
And so you called people that you recognized their names and gave them back.
Uh-huh.
What did some of those that you, some of the people that you gave those back to, what was their reaction? What will they do with them?
I don't know. One of them framed it and has it on the wall of her house. Every name was put diagonally across the square. I can almost remember the name of that club, but I can't. But they were thrilled to pieces to get it. One person said that was not her name. And I said, oh, it wasn't. She said, no. They called her Bammy Brown, but her real name was Alabama. But they called her that, and that's what she wrote across it, Bammy Brown.
And so were all those quilt squares made about the same year, at the same time?
They looked to be, There were feed sack squares with them that were the same size. They had gone that far.
Was there any talk of making them into a quilt?
Not that I know of. Feed sacks. I remember that lesson we had.
What was that? Can you describe that?
How to use feed sacks.
About what time would this have been? What year approximately?
I have no idea, but I know that when I was a girl, probably from 1935 on, Mother got, she had chickens and turkeys and ducks and, and she got her chicken feed in cloth sacks at the mill. And she would go to town the day she needed chicken feed because Dad brought home a chicken feed in a sack that had orange and green in it, And she said, it's not good for anything. But she would go in and pick 3 of the same design that could be used for little girls' dresses. And I wore feed sack dresses, proud as could be. Mother sewed them and they were just beautiful. She was you ever heard the term clothaholic? Mm-hmm. And all of her daughters are clothaholics. But she would have a scrap of yellow, maybe. And she'd have a blue and yellow dress for us with a big yellow collar, and a ruffle around it or something. Always some touch that made it extra special.
Those were good times. Anything else as we get closer to the end of our interview, our time together, that you can remember you'd like to share?
Probably tonight I'll think of 20 things I will wish I had said. I will wish I had said so and so, such and such. A.R. Garlington had a spinal defect. But I don't recall what it was. Maybe he'd broken his back, his shoulder, up in the shoulder area. I don't know. But he was a nice man. A nice man.
Did he? You said he stayed along for a long time. After his time was up, did he stay around? Did he move? What do you remember about that?
I don't remember. I don't remember at all. Ask Phyllis, she'll know.
Stan, do you have any questions?
I don't think so.
Fantastic. Anything else that you'd like to bring forward?
I'm glad that the extension clubs are branching off into other areas. Culture. I wish we'd get more involved in politics, but I know that has to be handled very carefully if you go into politics. I like the fact that we get to choose our own lessons 2 months out of the year, and we get to vote. We have a check mark list, and I'd like to see this and this and this, and then they tally up, and if everybody wants orphan train, then we're going to have a lesson on orphan trains.
Is that done within your group or?
It's countywide.
Countywide.
Countywide, And apparently it was something that everybody needed, because I'm not sure, but I think the top one this year must have been on decluttering your house. And I took it to heart.
So as a result of that lesson, what have you done?
Oh, I've given away 2 trunk loads, and I have another trunk load now to go. There's a church south of Stillwater near Perkins that makes blankets for homeless children out of double knits that people donate. We all us clothaholics stocked up on double knits, and now we don't use them.
Anything else that you
No.
can think of that you'd like to share? Miss Marjorie, it's been a delight to visit with you, and we're so thankful you participated in this project.
I better mention my other sisters by name, don't you think?
Yes, I think we should.
I'm the oldest, Marjorie Buchanan, Marianne Denny, the one who was president of the county, Peggy Goodrich, the one in Enid who has a husband who is a World War II vet, Effie Medford, who is the doctor who practiced at Presbyterian in Albuquerque, and Nancy Burns, who did work for DHS. And then, of course, the Philip Greasel is the older brother, and Bill Greasel is the younger.
And you said that you lost some twin brothers.
Yes.
Were they stillborn? Did they live a short time?
They lived from about 11 in the evening to 3 in the morning.
What were their names and where are they buried?
They're now buried in the Pawnee Highland Cemetery. They were buried in Grandma Meeker's garden, but that 80 acres was given to a son of the Meekers, mother's brother, and he sold it. So they moved the graves.
Do you remember about what year that was?
Yes, it would have been 1926. The folks were married in February of 25, and the twins were born in November of 26. Yes, 26. And mother had raked hay with a sulky rake all day. In November, they'd had a frost, and they were baling the dead hay, which we don't do nowadays much, but they did then. And she'd run the sulky rake and went into premature labor. And they had a blizzard that night. And Dad went across to the neighbors to get help and fell in a ditch of water and broke through. And
It was a difficult night.
Twins run in the family. I have twin grandchildren, a girl and a boy.
What are their names?
Cole Buchanan and Kara Buchanan. Cole is deceased. Automobile accident.
You mentioned 4 sons that you had.
Yes.
What were their names?
Calvin is the oldest, and he says he's a cattle trader, but he now owns the Pawnee Sale and feeds 600 head of cattle every day, but he's a cattle trader. When my husband was living and we had pastures of cattle, he brought us a check one night. And I said, "What's this for?" And he said, "I sold your cattle on Mitchell Place." And I said, "What?" And he said, "Well, I had a guy come to the place and he was looking for cattle and I didn't have any fit, but yours fit, so I sold them to him." The second son was Kenneth, and he died of cancer at 32, leaving 3 children, and we're close to the kids. And the third one was Butch, and he died of lightning strike at 18 in a hayfield. And the youngest one is Bob, and he's an attorney, CPA here in Pawnee, and will not take criminal cases. He said he got to be an attorney so he could plead his own cases in court, his tax cases in court.
Miss Marjorie, we greatly thank you for your time and your participation.
I've enjoyed it.
It's been fun.
You're going to have an awful lot of editing to do.
It was perfect. It was perfect. We appreciate your time. Thank you.
AR was here